Okay, good evening. We'd like to begin our February meeting with the pledge to the flag, please. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, if everybody's had a chance to look over the minutes and operating statements from last month and January. Actually, January's minutes because we didn't have a meeting in, well, December's because we didn't have a meeting in January.
I make a motion that we approve the December 2025 and January 2026 operating statements, December 22nd, 2025 public hearing minutes, December 22nd, 2025 council meeting minutes, and the January 12th, 2026 and February 9th, 2026 work session minutes.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
No, motion's carried. Now for the approval of the Quantum financial statements for December and January.
I'll make a motion that we approve Quantum's financial statements for December 2025 and January 2026.
Second.
And we have a second. Are there any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, noes? All right. Okay, we've changed our meeting around here a little bit this evening. We have some guests here this evening. We want to talk about special taxing district. And at this time, we're going to, we're going to let the gentleman come up, introduce yourself. We have a microphone right over here. State your name and things, and so it's recorded. This is recorded. It is going to be on public TV, so look all pretty. Right up here.
I'm going to give a little introduction.
Yes.
There you go. He's tall as I am.
Yeah.
Well, good evening, Mayor and council members and the public. My name's Ed Wormald with the Wormald Development Company. And we have owned land near Union Bridge, the former Bowman property, since 2003. And I'm here with Woodhaven Development as well, who's owned the Phillips property since about a little bit before that.
A whole lot before that. Yeah.
And so, we don't sit on property just, forever because we're not farmers. And but what's been keeping both properties from being able to bring some housing to Union Bridge has been the sewage treatment plant. And so we came up with the idea of working with a group called MuniCap, which does special taxing districts associated with development properties in towns. And so we've introduced this idea. I want to introduce Keenan Rice. He's the president and founder of MuniCap, and he's working all over the nation. And locally, you would know him as the person who made it possible to do like Brunswick Crossing. He worked on that project where they needed a sewage treatment plant. Also with Urbana, he worked with the county to create a special taxing district that was associated with the new properties. And he did the Links of Gettysburg that we were a part of, where we had a sewage treatment plant, and he worked it out so that the people who were bringing the new houses could pay for the infrastructure, and it wouldn't impact the people, that were already in the community. And so it's a way for, future housing to pay for its own infrastructure development. In this case, there's a wastewater treatment plant that is outdated and needs to be replaced, really. And, it's been studied and studied, And so, with the town, getting some outside resources in place from the state, and this additional resource could solve the financial problem related to getting the wastewater treatment plant, replaced and constructed. So with that, I'd like to introduce Keenan Rice. Thank you for coming.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting me here this evening. So I'm here to just discuss with you an idea to help finance the new sewer treatment plant, because it's something you're interested in considering. So MuniCap is a municipal advisor registered with the SEC and the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. We're specialists in our field. We're not a general financial advisor. For example, we don't help cities and counties issue general obligation bonds. We work really specifically in the field of special districts, often used when there's real estate development that needs to provide public improvements that are also benefit the city or the county. There's several examples that I think are very appropriate here that I want to mention to you. Ed mentioned the Brunswick Crossing. Brunswick Crossing had a sewer treatment plant that was old and antiquated, and it was leaking sewage in the Potomac River. And the Maryland Department of Environment had given them a cease and desist order, telling them stop leaking sewage into the river. The problem is they didn't have the money to pay for a new sewer treatment plant. They didn't want to raise the sewer rates for everyone in the town. They would have had to gone up quite a bit. But there was a development that was moving forward, Brunswick Crossing, and they needed sewer treatment capacity as well. So they were willing to agree to let the town levy a special tax on the property. In effect, they were prepaying their sewer connection fees, although they paid a lot more than their sewer connection fees. With those special taxes, the town was able to issue $30 million in bonds and built the new sewer treatment plant that they needed there. Another example I wanted to give is Heritage Green in La Plata. It was a similar situation, except this was a sewer pumping station, and it was leaking. Same situation. The Maryland Department of Environment had given them a cease and desist order, stop leaking sewage. Town of La Plata wasn't in a position to pay for a new pumping station. They didn't want to raise the rates on existing residents. Now, they were able to get a loan from the state, a low interest rate loan, a 2% loan, but they still had to pay that loan back. Okay, well, there's a developer project there, Heritage Green. They were going to have to use the same sewer pump station, but the town wasn't going to let them when it was leaking sewage. So the developer agreed to let the town levy a special tax, and the town was able to use that special tax to repay that loan from the state and to build a new pumping station. And one more example I wanted to give is close to home here, and that's Lake Linganore in Frederick County. Now, the problem there wasn't sewage, it was stormwater runoff. And there was a lot of uncontrolled stormwater runoff that was leaking into Lake Linganore, which is a reservoir for public water supply. And the county didn't want all that runoff, going into the lake. But at the same time, the county didn't want to issue its own bonds to fix all the stormwater runoff. So property owners in Lake Linganore, again, they were willing to agree to a special tax that was levied on their property. And Frederick County was also able to get a low interest rate loan from the state and pay back that loan from the special tax that was levied on the property. So those are just several examples. There's many other examples in Maryland. So since I founded MuniCap about 30 years ago, in 1997, back then it was Keenan Rice, sole proprietor. We've grown since then. Now we have about 60 employees, and we work in over 30 states in the country. We've put together over 500 bond issues, like we're talking about here. So we're very experienced with this kind of work. It's certainly the program that I think would work for you if it was something you were interested in proceeding. So there's two projects in here that in particular are part of the discussion. That's Villages of Union Bridge and Jackson Ridge. Now, they both need sewer capacity, okay? So they're interested in working with you to help solve the problem. And that same solution we've talked about, something that they would consider, which is to levy a special tax, you need the consent of the owner, okay? So under Maryland law. So they're willing to consent to you levying a special tax and then on their property, and then bonds could be issued to repay the bonds that were issued. And we've done some preliminary calculations that we could fund about $10 million. Now, plus or minus, there's some other things we could look at. But we've evaluated that with a reasonable special tax, that property could pay about $7 million, $10 million, could fund about $10 million, okay? So I want to jump ahead a little bit here in the presentation. So we've looked at the cost. You had a study done that you can see. You may already know the properties, but we have a few slides in here that show you where the properties are located and the site plans. But I'm jumping ahead to a table that we took out of a study that was done for you that shows the cost could vary from $14 million to about $16.5 million. You have received $4 million that can go towards those costs. With $10 million in special tax bonds, that puts you about $14 million. So we're a little bit short, okay? I'm confident if we're $300,000 short, we can fit that in. I'm not worried about that. If the cost is $16.6 million, then, you know, we're going to have to do some brainstorming and think about it. One thing I will say, I don't know if you have checked out getting a loan from the state. Okay, they do have a water revolving fund that provides very low interest. In fact, they get money from the U.S. government, and they're able to make loans at very low interest. Those same special taxes would pay for more cost. We could probably bridge that gap and get to the 16.6 million. So that'd be one thing worth looking at if you haven't already looked at that. But the idea now, if it's something you're interested in, so when we go through a process like this, there's really 3 phases we go through. The first is the financial planning phase, okay? And so we've done a little bit of that, looking at the numbers, but we would need to refine those numbers. If we come up with a financial plan that works and that you approved, then you have to do the town approval. You have to do 3 things. You have to create the district, you have to levy the special tax, and you have to authorize the bonds, the issuance of the bonds. Now, there are professionals like myself and other professionals who do all this work, and that's done at no cost to you. We all get paid out of the bonds that are issued for the project. But right now, the phase that we're in is the financial planning phase, to try to figure out what this works. We've done some initial preliminary financial analysis, because we wanted to look and say, well, is this even worth considering, okay? And our initial analysis says it is something. If you're interested, it's something that it's worth taking a look at. We would need to do some additional refinement. I'd like to go back and make sure the cost estimates we're looking at are good or valid, still valid. So that's one thing we would want to, freshen up. We can do some additional financial analysis. If you haven't already talked to the state about a low-interest loan, I think it would be worth, pursuing that. I don't think that's critical. I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's very helpful. So essentially, if it's something you're interested in, all we would do at this point in time is do some additional financial analysis, financial feasibility, and see if we can come up with a viable financial plan and come back to you, and you decide whether you like the plan and whether you want to move forward. So that's essentially our presentation. I'd like to answer any questions if you have any.
Well, we're in the position right now, I don't think we can afford any more loans, so we're looking at as far as grant money and other alternatives.
Sure. Well, and the idea of a special tax district, what you borrow is paid back by the special tax. So, and that was the same situation Brunswick and La Plata were in. They couldn't afford,
Right.
They didn't have deep pockets. And they weren't willing to, significantly increase the water and sewer fees that residents in the town were paying. They would have had to significantly increase them, and they weren't willing to do that. So the special tax district, in all those cases, the developers had property that they wanted to develop, but they couldn't develop without sewer capacity. So that was really the leverage to get these property owners to work with the, La Plata and Brunswick to help solve the problem. And those bonds were issued, and they're not being paid back by the town in either case. It's being paid back by the special taxes.
Sure.
So-
Sounds like a plan.
In the beginning, in the early stages, say we borrowed the money because we might be able to get a better interest rate, maybe. How does that work? How does, in the beginning, before you're a couple years out, I'm sure, how does that work? How does that get paid when they're not building yet?
Well, so any one of these scenarios, you would be the issuer of the bonds. To be tax exempt, tax exempt bonds is a product available to government, okay, local governments, okay, so the developer can't borrow tax exempt, okay. But usually when we issue the bonds, they're what are called special revenue bonds. They're only paid by the special taxes. You're not liable. You're not guaranteeing the bonds. So, but your question is a good question. When could we issue the bonds? Generally, we want to see visible development, is the term we use. We want to see development of going forward, okay? Bondholders don't really want special taxes on farmland. They want to see developments going forward. So that's one of the things we would have to coordinate and look and see the timing of the development and when was it going forward, because that would be really critical to having a good, stream of revenues that could be used to repay the bonds. And you would not, I will tell you the state programs often do require a guarantee from the local government. However, we use the special taxes as the money to pay that back. Okay, so under any of these scenarios, you're not paying the bonds back or the loan back. It's the special taxes that are paying that back.
So in any case, we would not be paying the money. The existing residents would not be on the hook for that.
That's right.
There's no case where that would happen, none.
None whatsoever. And,
Okay.
and the proof is that in both La Plata and Brunswick, they didn't pledge anything but the special taxes. That was the only revenues that were pledged to repay those bonds. I mean, one of the things that was important to them is they didn't want to have to raise the sewer rates on all of their residents. So their sewer revenues were not pledged to repay those bonds. So there's no scenario in which they would have to use their sewer revenues to repay those bonds.
Okay.
I have a question. So you said that you want to see development moving because you don't, these bonds aren't offered for farmland. So if you have a development that's several years out, you wouldn't issue the bond then prior, would you?
Well, probably not. We would want to see what the process was. And one of the things bondholders, so I'd be happy to issue the bonds, but the bondholders won't, they're reluctant to buy them unless they see real development, okay? Because they want to see there's money coming in to pay the special tax, okay? So one of the things we look at is where the property is in the governmental approvals. And we usually make a distinction between what we call discretionary approvals and administrative approvals. So administrative approvals are like a building permit. You know, you check the box, you meet the requirements, you get your building permit. Discretionary approvals are approvals that require a vote by a legislative body such as yourself. Bondholders usually don't want to take that risk. They want to have confidence that the town or the governmental body, you know, is willing to approve the development. Okay, so usually we would issue the bond once we see that the, you know, at least significant, you know, some indication of discretionary approvals in place, and that the development will be able to go forward, you know, in the reasonably near future.
So what would happen if a property was scheduled to be developed, but for some strange reason it fell through and didn't move forward? You guys, the bond, they just lose that money?
So
Because there's no tax, there's nothing to tax to
Well,
pay that back.
So the special tax is on the property. It's just like a property tax, except for it's not an ad valorem tax. It's a fixed tax. So, you know, whatever that tax is whatever is required to pay the debt service, that's the tax that's levied on the property. It's only on the property in the district. It's only the 2 development projects. But if it turns out, so usually we fund interest on the bonds for some period of time. You know, so there's no payments due maybe for 2 years. So the first payment's maybe in the 3rd year. So in that 3rd year, they're going to have to start paying the special taxes. If they don't pay the special taxes, the property goes to tax sale. It's just like a property tax. We've always been successful. Someone else will come in and buy the property because this is a very low, you know, tax compared to the value of the property. Someone will come in, but say worst case, no one came in and bought the property, then the bondholders lose the money. Okay, and you know, so you could think of these bonds, they typically sell for about 2% higher than like if Frederick County were to issue its bond guaranteed by Frederick County. The special tax bonds are going to be about 2% higher in the interest rate. Investors buy these bonds because they want to earn that higher interest rate. They know they're taking some risk. You can think of it like an insurance company that provides like fire insurance. You know, they know they're going to pay out some claims, but they get a premium, you know, for taking that insurance. And they figure they're going to get more in premiums than they pay out in claims. It's the same case here. These bonds actually have a very good track record. Nationally, the loss on principal is less than 0.5%. So the bondholders are willing to take the risk. I mean, if you put together the bonds right, because they want to earn that extra 2% on the bonds. But ultimately, bondholders are at risk. So in Frederick County, if you ever heard of the project called Jefferson Technology Park?
Yep.
So the residential there was very successful. The commercial was not successful at all. So they were in a situation they couldn't pay. You know, we were collecting the county was collecting the special taxes on the residential, but the developer said, I can't develop the commercial. There's no point in me paying the taxes. I can't do anything with it. You know, so you know, we worked with the county to restructure the bonds. We were able to reissue them at a lower interest rate, so the bonds could be paid just by the special taxes on the residential. But nobody came to the county and said, you know what, you need to pay these taxes so we can pay the bonds. Because they had told the bondholders right up front, we're not paying the debt service on the bond. If the taxes aren't enough, that's your risk. The bondholders knew that. They were compensated for that. And these bonds are not sold to individual investors, okay, because they're higher risk. they're sold to financial institutions who know the risk and who can manage and take that risk and who want to get the compensation. But a great example was Jefferson Technology Park, because it was in a situation where the developer stopped paying the taxes on the commercial property. And for a year, they didn't pay the taxes. But nobody came to the county and said, hey, are you going to step up and pay them? Because the county had told them at the very beginning, no, we're not, okay? But we were able to refund those bonds to get a lower interest rate, so the bonds can be paid just by the residential property.
So the scenario that we're in with like the Woodhaven developers, you know, we had talked about them using part of the surplus that we have in our sewer plant to get their development started. Would that be enough for your company to, or for somebody to secure the bonds?
I
Because
think
that's
so.
something
I
that's-
mean, I think the developer team is paying our fees right now, so I think we're being covered. But there will be, you know, a couple of attorneys that need to come in and work on this. A lot of times, they will defer their payment till the issuance of the bond. So I don't know how much cost, you know, there will be. I think the primary cost you might be looking at is any engineering work. You know, we need to refresh these estimates. Are these still good estimates? So I think it was someone who worked for you who did those estimates to begin with. So I think that would be the primary cost you would be looking at. I don't think you would be paying our cost or the cost of the attorneys. I mean, one of the attorneys would actually work for you. The bond counsel would actually work for you. But I think they would look, first of all, they would look to get paid out of the bonds. But if for some reason the bonds didn't get issued, they would be looking to the developer team. That's how these deals typically work.
This is just the first track of their development. It would be beneficial for a bonding company to get on board to help them get started, because, you know, we're looking at a small amount of houses. Doesn't take long when you're building houses in today's world. Once you get started, those amount of houses be built and our plant's not going to be done, and we're looking for that money.
Exactly. I mean, you really need to know, you know, when you're moving forward with development like that, you need to know there's going to be sewer treatment capacity.
Sure.
You know, and there's a real lot shortage in Maryland right now. I know Montgomery County did an analysis on and determined they were short 70,000
Sure.
homes. I mean, and we see that throughout the state of Maryland.
So is Carroll
And it's
County,
driving prices up because of the shortage of housing. I mean, I see builders knocking on doors, you know, land developers' doors, like, you know, buying all the lots that they have are available. So I'm not really worried about the market. Once you start building, you know, those homes, there will be builders and there will be home buyers for those
Build it,
homes.
they'll come. I mean,
But you got to have sewer treatment capacity.
Sure, that's right.
Right.
I mean, Union Bridge is the only town in Carroll County that hasn't had growth, and it's been on the books, you know, back, like you say, for years and years. We started, when that was annexed and started that project, I had hair. That's how long ago it's been. So it's been a long time, so.
Well, I'll be joining you soon there. You look very handsome, you know,
Thank you.
without hair.
But, you know, and we need development, but we want to make sure it's controlled and that
Right.
the existing people in Union Bridge don't have to pay for it.
Exactly.
Because, you know, we're a low to moderate income community, and the way that our people in existing town would be able to afford to stay here if they had to pay that bill.
Well, that's one of the ideas behind special taxes, to make growth pay for itself.
Sure, and it has to.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what, you know, we've been discussing for the last 30 years, is growth pay for itself.
Right. Exactly.
I have a question. If it's okay from the floor?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Keenan, if both projects had platted lots, do you think that would be sort of a trigger where the bonding companies are secure enough that
I
they
do.
can move forward?
I think platting of lots is an excellent indication of development being able to go forward. If you've gotten far enough along in your approvals to be able to plat your lots, then that's usually a very good indication of the ability for the development to proceed. So I think that would be sufficient.
And how about like something like a development rights and responsibilities agreement, where it's almost like a zoning, you know, something that's like a promise of being able to develop or something?
So an agreement like that is very helpful. So I think that would be a very good idea. It would be actually very helpful to help, you know, as I mentioned, bondholders want to see development's going to go forward. And an agreement like that helps provide that assurance the development is going to be able to go forward.
Okay, so then, I mean, anything before one of those two steps, like a final site plan approval or preliminary plan approval? I guess with the final site plan approval, if that's the last public vote, then that would be sufficient as well,
I
right?
think so.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
So I have another question, and I know this is basically the same question that I just asked you, but I need you to clarify. We have a development that has a public works agreement.
Mm-hmm.
They're pretty much, ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have the development that doesn't have that at all.
Okay.
We're in the process of wanting to build a plant, possibly the whole thing all at once.
Sure.
But we've got one that's ready to go and one that isn't. We can't fund that wastewater treatment plant for the development that it doesn't have the public works agreement yet.
Right.
And it takes time
Right.
for all that. So the way I understood what you said is that you wouldn't fund, or the bonds, the people who are funding with the bonds would not invest in that until it was ready to move forward. Because right now, it's still considered farm property.
Well, and I think that's right. Now, I would like to better understand the status and the process. So it takes about a year to put together a bond issue. So it's not like if you say yes for, a couple of months, we'd be going to the market with the bond. It really takes about, I mentioned those 3 different phases we go through. It takes about a year to go through all those phases. So I would like to get better understanding of what would be the process and when, that project would be far enough along, the bondholders could say this project is going to be able to go forward and develop. But I think you ask a valid question.
Yeah, we have some 2027 numbers that didn't change significantly probably from what you have. What we're worried about is the bid process and the possibility of it coming back in, not significantly higher, but somewhat higher.
Sure.
Because it's a small project, and from what the engineer's telling me, some of the contractors, they'll just bid high. If they get it, fine. If they don't, they'd rather have the big jobs. So how does that say instead of 14 million? Well, actually, the 14 with engineering is going to be 17, 18 million. What if it comes back in at 22 million or something? I mean, what do we do at that point? How do you handle that? But our problem is we can start design on a .2 plant tomorrow. We can do that. We can make those numbers work. We can't make the .4 work with current monies. So we don't want to say, all right, let's go into design on a .4 on something that's going to take a couple years to maybe get funded, because hopefully we'll be in construction before that. So you see our problem?
I do. It's a good question. And I mentioned the financial feasibility, the first phase of going through this. And one of the things they said is we need to update these cost numbers. Are they still good cost numbers? Okay, because we work on another project. Numbers we got a couple years ago are no longer good numbers. So we need to know what those are. We can refine. We did initial analysis. It's just a quick analysis. What could we support? I don't think we've tapped out at $10 million, but if it comes in, the cost is $22 million, I can't tell you I have a solution to that. We would have to look at that and try to, see if we can come up with a plan that would work. But we have to go through that financial feasibility phase to just see if we can come up with a feasible plan.
Yeah. But see, we won't know that until we design a .4 or a .2. So we'll already be into a .4 design. We'll have a design. And then it's like, oh, we don't have the money.
So usually, my experience is engineers are conservative when they come up with their cost estimates. Now, the question is, are they current? I don't know when these cost estimates were prepared.
Well, I just received some in last week that are 2027 numbers, he said, so.
Okay, so.
That's what he's telling me.
Usually, we find that the engineer's estimates are conservative. And most of the time, we've been able to come in at or even a little bit below those numbers. So I would be hopeful.
One would hope, yes.
Yeah.
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 So if we, if say this is all, we all decided this is the way we want to go, I guess our next steps is what are our next steps, and I guess it's just that. What are our next steps?
The next step is to move forward with the financial feasibility. You're not being asked to agree to issue bonds or levy a tax or anything else. Like, right now, it's just, let's explore this and see if it's a feasible plan. So that's really the question right now. And so let's see if we can come up with a feasible plan that works. That's all, that's the question. We've done some preliminary work, but before we go forward and do more work, and before we ask your engineer, maybe we don't need to ask an engineer if you have 27 numbers. But the point right now is, well, let's continue working on the financial feasibility and see if we can come up with a plan that works. If we can, we'll come back to you, and then you'll have another decision to make. At that point in time, the decision will be to create the district, levy the taxes, and authorize the issuance of the bonds. But we're not asking for that right now. You don't need to do that right now. We need to come prepare a plan and to come back to you with that plan.
Okay.
And then my other question is in this whole process, who pays the lawyer to review anything that comes through here? And who pays the engineer to look again at the numbers and verify them? Who's paying for that? Is Union Bridge paying for it existing, or are the developers paying for that?
So the attorney, I mentioned earlier, typically they'll agree to get paid out of the bond issue. Now, it's not really contingent. They're not saying, well, if you never issue bonds, I'll eat the cost. What they're saying is, I'll be paid out of the bond issue, and then they'll typically give you an outside date. If you issue the bonds by such and such date, we'll get paid out of the bonds. But if you don't issue the bonds by then, we want to get paid. It's usually the developer who pays the attorney. I don't know about the engineer. The engineer is already working for you, has done a lot of the work, so maybe the engineer would be working for you on that, but I don't know.
I'm not sure how much more work we need out of the engineer at this stage.
Right.
Yeah, than
Right.
what they've already done, because they just looked at the numbers again.
Now, at some point, when you issue bonds, you want to be able to start construction. So I don't think we would need much or anything from the engineer. I wanted updated cost estimates. When we get into that third phase, we're working on the bonds, then you need to have designed improvements. Because we issue bonds, we start construction the next day. You don't want to issue bonds and have to sit on them for 6 months before you start construction. So at some point, I don't know if you started design or anything else, but
We haven't, but we're ready,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. Is any of that $4 million able to be used for design? I know it's gone to pay for land. Is there enough money to pay for design?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Okay. So I wouldn't start on design until we've done the financial feasibility and you've agreed to create the district and levy the tax and issue the bonds, okay? You want to know things are moving forward. But typically, you want the improvements designed and permitted before you issue the bond so that you can start construction right away.
Yeah, that makes sense. It does. Well, that's my point. I want to get this moving as quickly as possible.
Sure.
So if we can do the design work while you're running your numbers, it makes the most sense.
Sure.
Sure. Okay. Anything else?
I'm still,
there.
the design, if you're designing for existing town of Union Bridge, that's one cost. If you're doing a design for a bigger plant,
Yeah,
that's another cost, and
and I don't have
I
that
don't think
with me.
Union Bridge should have to pay for that.
No.
No, it would all, our paying for the design up front would still be figured into our contribution for the whole project.
Right, and any of those costs are reimbursed. I think you're asking a good question. To be honest with you, I don't know the answer. That's not my question to answer, but I do understand your point. I will say any of the design costs, if they're paid, get reimbursed from the bond issue.
And just
And
want to be careful.
Oh, yeah.
it's about roughly $800,000 difference to design a .4 than a .2. Of course, that's engineering and inspection services too. So, worst case scenario, you design a .4 and you have to downsize it if this doesn't come together.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think I have any other questions.
Anybody else have any questions?
Well, thank you very much. I
Diane,
appreciate that.
do you have any questions?
So, and just to be clear, it's no cost to you. It's just, Ed doesn't want to waste time and money. I don't want to waste time and money.
Absolutely.
So we want to know you're interested in pursuing it. That's all we need to know, is you're interested in pursuing it, and then we'll go pursue it.
Yeah, okay. I think we can talk about it, the next meeting, the next work session, and,
Maybe come up with a decision for our next meeting.
yeah,
maybe.
let these folks who haven't heard it yet have a little bit of time to
Okay. Sure.
think about it. But but we need to build a plant. And we have the money, like I say, we could build a .2 now
Okay.
without this.
Okay.
But we can't build a .4, and it's silly to build a .2 with two developments sitting there.
Yeah.
Because even though you guys could squeeze in them first 70 or so, that'd be it. If we don't.
We've been sitting on the 73 for 22 years.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
So if anyone has questions between now and then, feel free to reach out to us. We'd be happy to get on the phone, answer any questions, anybody.
Appreciate it.
I have some more questions. On this slide here, it has a .2 MPD and a .4 MPD. And in your study, the .2 wasn't a whole lot less than a .4. The difference in cost between the two was only $2.5 million.
It isn't that much. That's why it's silly to build a .2.
Yeah, so if you could, you said you could build a .2 now based on the funding you have?
Yes, and and I get where you're going. The MDE will pay more of the share if we build a .2 than they will if we build a .4 and throw that growth element in it. So even though it's the cost to us will increase with the .4. So, you understand, I mean, what I'm saying, that,
So you're saying you could get money from the state to build a $14 million plant? And that of course could be built, so a module could be added to expand it to .4 pretty easily.
it could,
As
just,
far as the original design.
yeah.
So, and in order to, put the special taxing district on the properties, I mean, I think you need all the bonds from both of our properties in order to get
Yes.
enough money, which is like $10 million.
Yeah,
So, it just seems like if you're able to build, I mean, what I was gonna say is if you can build a .2 MGD plant right now, you might as well just do it, right? And then the bonds could come along a couple of years later.
yeah,
and
then
we could, expand it,
it'll end up costing more,
right?
but, because the roller pumping station should be sized for .4, otherwise you're gonna have to add on. Same with the headwork, same with the clarifiers at the end.
Yeah.
It just makes sense to build it for .4. So let's see if we can't get this figured out for,
So I mean, our project could, with willing participants, our project could be final platted in about 12 months.
okay,
But, it would need to be, an effort, where we move faster than we have in the past. I mean, collectively.
Yeah, I don't see that happening with the planning commission with that quick.
I was just
But,
gonna say, I don't see
I
that
mean,
happening either.
I would suggest, because of the governor of this state of Maryland is such a big push on affordable housing and everything, instead of giving all this money to the lower counties, Carroll County is still part of Maryland. Get some of this money up here. We've been paying for the fee for the restoration of the bay and everything all these years, and we haven't gotten anything out of it. So it's time to talk to these politicians, tell them, get off the pot and send some of this money up this way. We haven't had a good relationship down there since Don Elliott got New Windsor some money, and we've been trying, and, well, I can't say that because Justin Reedy, we got that $5 million, but the money coming up this way has been very, very slow. And it's time for him, he wants more affordable housing in the state of Maryland. Let's see him do something about it.
so, Ed, you're saying you're want to proceed now? I mean, you're ready to move on this property
Yeah,
now?
I mean, if we had, yeah, I mean, I don't like just sitting on the property, you know. If we had if we had agreements in place that gave us certainty of getting to the finish line, then yeah, we would go forward. But
Okay.
we just can't be in a situation where we're just spending money on lawyers and your people and our people and your people and our
Yeah.
people.
And we should be we can make this happen, especially if we do something like this, for the money that we don't have. I don't see why we can't make it happen. I truly don't. Look at me.
Because I can see Woodhaven's ready to go now starting with our surplus capacity, more or
Right.
less. So that would get them started. But that's, and these guys have been sitting on that for, like I say, since '91. That's when that property was annexed into the town. So I'd like to see them get started, and then, I'd like to see the other project get started too. But, we're taking baby steps, and I think Woodhaven is further advanced and ready to get started than what the village is. But, we'll work with whoever. The village is gonna have to get together and come with some plans, because the planning commission has to approve a lot of that, and then, we have to start working on that really big time, so.
So,
So
go ahead.
Keaton, you address that, like, if they had 25 houses that they'd already built, and then the special taxing district gets imposed, it couldn't be on those first 25, right?
We could not.
So any houses that get going, earlier for their development would have to be withheld from the taxing district.
So, the special taxes can be imposed before you issue the bond. So, but once you've already sold property, that would be excluded. It's really just the developer, the property it owns, that it can sit. We wouldn't try to go back and, you've already sold homes and say, "Oh, hey, guess what? Now you're gonna pay the special tax." Any home gets sold, and the special tax could be levied, in a few months, actually. But once, if you've sold homes before the special tax is levied, you're not gonna pay the special tax.
Okay, well, it gives us something to think about our next work session, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can.
Sounds great.
Thank you very much for your time.
One more question, and this is about timing. If we say we're gonna proceed with this, and we tell the engineers, start designing a .4 plant, when that design is finished, I mean, it's gonna take several months. I wish I had the document with me, because he gave you the time frame for each thing. But can we have this in place so we would know when the design was done that, hey, this is gonna work? I mean, is that feasible?
Sure, I absolutely think so. When I talk about it takes about a year, most of that time is actually issuing the bonds. The feasibility study won't take that long, and then the approvals to create the district, levy the tax, and authorize issue bonds, that can be done in like 45 to 60 days. It doesn't take long. So yes, everything could be in place. We can't issue the bonds until we can see, one, development's ready to go forward, and two, you're ready to start
Right.
construction. So that's what really, it's that third phase that really takes the most time.
Okay. Okay, and as far as, so if we say we don't want to take out a loan, then that's something you would do?
Well,
For that money.
So, we can either issue bonds to the market, and we've been incredibly successful in getting the bonds sold. Last year, we closed on 103 bond issues. All but 2 were oversubscribed. 2 of them, we had orders for about 90%, and the underwriter took down the balance, so they still sold. So that was at least a 98% success rate on selling the bonds. Now, if you decide to get a loan from the state, we would work with you. We've done that many times. There's a lot of information the state, wants to see, when they go through their process to approve the loan. So we've done that many times. So we could work with you on, if a loan is available from the state, it can be very attractive because it can be a low interest rate, but they typically require you to be liable for the repayment. Unlike with bonds you have no liability for the repayment. Now, even if we got a loan from the state, the special taxes are what would go, to repay the loan. But to the question you asked earlier, like, if we issue bonds and there's no money to pay the bonds, the bondholders are out. Okay, the state's not out if they make the loan.
Okay. Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you, and take care, thank you. All right, moving on, and go to the next thing on the report here is the mayor's report. First thing before, well, I won't forget it, but unfortunately, yesterday morning early, about 1:30 yesterday morning, a gentleman that used to work for the town, Steve Stanball, passed away. He's been, probably for the last 4 or 5 years, has been suffering with cancer, and he went to be with the Lord yesterday morning. And as far as I know right now, there will be no services for him. He requested no services, so just send your condolences to the family. He worked for us probably about 3 years or something like that, and done a tremendous job down at the park on the other side of the creek, and it really, really looks nice, and that was, most of that work was done by him. The biggest problem we had with Steve, and Dawn can tell you, he saw something that had to be done, you had to hold him back because he'd jump in there and try to do it. He was a man that knew a little bit of everything. He knew construction, he knew a little bit of everything. He's been around for a long time, so that was the biggest problem with him, is trying to hold him back from jumping in, getting everything done. But you go down there that trail and you see the park from the creek out to Route 75. That was mainly work that he did the other year, and we got that new piece of equipment. He went down there and really cleaned that place up, and owe him a lot of gratitude for all that work that he did. March the 12th, Union Bridge will be hosting the Carroll County chapter of the MML dinner. Hopefully everybody get their reservations in so we can tell the caterer about that, how many people will be coming. And for some reason, they're having a trash collection contest between the municipalities. And I was hoping these guys would really jump on the bandwagon, but I think it's a lot of details there I don't know about yet. I think we're looking at the streets, the ball fields, and the public areas and things like that. I don't think they're going out and just doing trash collection all over the whole town. I have to get a little more details on that, but they're looking at sometime in April probably for that, so I'll get some more details on that. If not before, I'll find out at the MML dinner that we're hosting from the other municipalities. That will be, as far as I know, pretty much all 8 municipalities will be there, and it should be a pretty good turnout for us, I hope. And Dawn have the rest of my report with everything that's been going on. Now we'll get to Mandy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I will be introducing ordinance 322. If council members and members of the community did not know, the town recently acquired title to the property where the new wastewater treatment plant will be built. That just happened, I think last week? Mm-hmm. Last week.
Yes.
So now we are moving forward with that as part of the Fourth Amendment to the Union Bridge Community Comprehensive Plan. Expanding the boundary changes to the town zoning map, and it's going to be rezoning the district in which the new part of where the wastewater treatment plant will be. That is what ordinance 322 does. And then it also amends section 4.3, the non-conforming uses, to clarify and facilitate administration of section 4.3 by the zoning administrator and Board of Zoning Appeals.
Okay, so we're introducing this at this time, and we'll have public hearing
The
next
public
month.
hearing will be next month.
month.
This will be advertised twice prior to that hearing.
Right, okay.
And that's
Yeah.
all I have.
Did you have anything on that, Chris, or not? You just had other? I see we have the county here. I didn't know we had something,
Oh, no.
or just regular comments. Okay, okay. All right. Deputy McGinnis.
Good thing you don't have height requirements, I would have never made the cut. Good evening, everyone. Good to be here this evening. I have 2 months of data here for the town of Union Bridge. Unfortunately, the last council meeting, as Perry noted, got canceled, and the snow decided to show up just hours prior to today as well. So something about council meetings and snow patterns that we got to break. But anyhow, I'll get right into it. Between December 22nd, 2025, and February 23rd, 2026, the Carroll County Sheriff's Office responded to 63 records within the town of Union Bridge. The records included 5 alarm calls, 5 other calls, which are miscellaneous calls, 1 animal complaint, 22 building checks, 2 civil, 1 disturbance, 4 domestic disputes, 2 frauds, 12 check welfares, 1 parking complaint, 3 suspicious activities, 3 traffic stops, and 1 vandalism. Out of those calls, 9 were found to be reportable. On 1/3/26 at 4:27 p.m., deputies responded to East Elger Street for a check welfare. A medical care provider responded to the scene and orchestrated a plan for the individual who needed further care. That case was closed. On 1/8/2026 at 2:15 p.m., a retail theft occurred in the 4700 block of Green Valley Road. 3 female subjects who were later identified as Romanian entered the store and stole approximately $1,600 worth of ELF makeup products. Further investigation revealed or related this case to others involving 2 CVS stores in Carroll County from that day with the same suspects. The vehicle was actually on GPS. The suspects were charged, and that case was closed. On 1/9/2026 at 10:03 a.m., deputies responded to the 300 block of East Thomas Street for a domestic in progress. Upon arrival, deputies spoke to the alleged victim, who had no visible signs of injury. The suspect was later observed intoxicated in town. The original argument stemmed from the suspect's intoxication level. The suspect was driven to a hotel to sober up after all other options were exhausted. The victim was advised of a protective order services and charging applications. On 1/13/2026 at 5:17 p.m., an injured deer was reported at Union Bridge Road and Main Road. Deputies responded and euthanized the deer by firing 1 round from their issued Glock. Case was closed. On 1/25/26 at 7:31 a.m., deputies responded to the 100 block of Main Street for an industrial accident. The subject was operating a snow machine snow machine as in snowblower, not a snowmobile, when he backed into a cement ballard, injuring his right leg. The subject's leg was ultimately dislocated, and the subject was treated for injuries at Carroll Hospital Center. That case was closed. On 1/30/26 at 10:02 p.m., a check welfare was documented in the 100 block of East Locust Street regarding a subject who wanted assistance in dealing with a personal problem. A crisis intervention team referral was completed by the deputy, and that case was closed. On 2/1/26 at 9:15 p.m., deputies responded to the 200 block of East Elger Street for a check welfare. A subject was transported to Carroll Hospital Center for emotional assistance. Case was closed. On 2/3/2026 at 3:30 a.m., deputies conducted a search warrant in the 200 block of East Elger Street. This search was for a drug-related warrant. Items were recovered in relation to controlled dangerous substances, or CDS. On 2/10/26 at 11:50 a.m., deputies served a knock and arrest warrant on South Leitner Street pertaining to a probation violation. The subject was arrested without incident. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Barry.
Okay, we'll get started with committee reports. Tony, and you had a busy month.
Busy month of nothing but snow. Obviously, since we didn't have a council meeting last time, we've had 2 snow events. Thankfully, this last one was a nothing burger for the most part. Obviously, the one before that was much more severe. Town did a pretty good job. We did have, I don't know, about a half a dozen, maybe a little bit more, service calls, complaints, et cetera. Somebody pushed snow someplace or stuff like that. But by and large, thankfully, my job allows me to travel pretty much in the whole state of Maryland. And 3 days after the storm, I was telling Perry, I went from Waldorf to Hagerstown and stopped in places like Rockville, Bethesda, Germantown, a couple other places, and I got to say that the town looked better than most of those places did. Montgomery County was a train wreck, absolute train wreck for easily a week. after that snow event. It did bring up some things that I'm gonna work with the town maintenance folks and Stambaugh on, particularly there's a set of 3 alleys on the backside of town with really, really bad hills that I know in the past have caused problems. Even I live on one of the alleys, so I know that sometimes the alleys tend to get kind of pushed to the back burner because they're focused on the main roads. But by and large, considering how bad this storm was and the temperatures that were just ridiculous, I work in a business where when we have really bad snowstorms, I end up having to dig out about 120 cars. And it got so bad in Landover 2 days after the storm that we actually started buying axes to get through the ice. That's how bad it got. So by and large, yes, I know it was a pain. Yes, I know some folks had some issues with it. But I think the town did a pretty darn good job, and the folks that were working, and the contractors, given what we had with that and with an issue with the salt that was resolved. And other than that, I don't have anything else.
Okay. I think that's great because everybody complains, but they, like I say, they go to some of these other towns and they see how daggone well they have it around here, and they just, they don't get a chance to travel like some of us do, and they don't see what's happening in these other towns, but these guys has always done a really good job for us in town.
It was
compared to what we have.
It was really, really bad that no matter how much salt you put down, it still wouldn't melt it. And that was causing the biggest problems. People were like, why aren't you salting? It's like, we are salting. It doesn't, when it's 0 degrees out, salt isn't gonna melt this stuff.
Well,
And
Brett
especially when
knows-
there's no traffic on the road
Brett knows about
or,
that because he plowed snow for the
Yeah.
state for years, and he knows exactly how.
but I will say that out of all the complaints, every complaint that we got, I did try to get to all of the residents so they could actually physically talk to them instead of just answering the phone. All of them, once you sat down and talked to them, they were pretty chill about it. And we did 1 or 2 little small things where I went a little over above just to make them happy. So by and large, given with that mess that we had, I was pretty pleased in the end with how it went.
That's great.
So,
Yep, okay. Ellen?
Okay, I have a briefing paper from Mike for the Town of Union Ridge Community Center paving project. The project update, an RFP for the removal of the existing flooring and installation of a new floor was issued for the community center on February 6, 2026, and the bid opening was held on February 20th, 2026 at 10 a.m. One bid was received for the job from Aqua Concepts / ACS Performance Flooring for a total of $18,480, which is within the budgeted range for the project. 3 provided references were checked and were positive. Mike recommends that the town vote to accept the bid from Aqua Concepts ACS Performance Flooring for $18,480. And to that effect, I guess I make a motion that we accept the bid from Aqua Concepts ACS Performance Flooring for $18,480 to remove the existing flooring and install the new floor in the community center.
Okay.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Are there questions?
Is there a timeline on this?
As soon
I
as
think-
possible.
I think this is all part of the work that's planned to
Already.
happen in March.
March, April, and May is when the
That's
centers
what I
close,
thought.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Noes? Motion carried. We can start with that project.
Okay. The next thing is the Tiny Town Lions Ball Club. Did you give this to everybody, Dawn?
Yes.
Okay, they have the electric bills on the back because we asked about the electric for that. In all actuality, I firmly believe that West Carroll Rec League had to pay for the electric when they used it. The Tiny Town Lions Club should pay for it also. Or this is the way it worked before. Some of these bills look high, but if you look at it, like in August, the total bill for both accounts was $119.93, but the next month it was $10.10. So what you have there is you have an actual and then an estimated bill. So if you go through, it's gonna be less, and average it out, it's definitely gonna be less than $100 a month. Well, actually, even less than that, probably closer to $50 a month. And I just think that, personally, I think that they should be paying. And it would be done in such a way that the bill is kept in the town's a name, and they would just give them the bill, a copy of the bill for it each month. Is that what we're talking about, Dawn?
Yeah, I don't think that it should be put in anybody else's name other than Union Bridge.
Yeah, I
Not with
think-
all the
yeah.
hassle we had getting it back into our name.
They did wanna charge me a service charge, to open up an account, and I said, look, we have multiple accounts with you, you're really gonna charge me a fee? And they, decided not to, but they did say, don't expect it all the time,
Sure.
so.
Well, I think before there was, through the West Carroll Rec Council, that was going through the county, and it doesn't do that because the West Carroll doesn't exist in that part of it anymore, so. So what's your recommendation?
I recommend that we pass the cost of the electric on to Town Lions Bulb, that the bill stay in the town's name, and they just be given a copy of it every month.
Has this been discussed with them?
No, it has not. I wanted to talk to you guys before I,
Well, I did tell them
Oh.
that it was gonna be discussed, that's because they wanted to know why it hadn't been signed, and I said, well, we need to discuss about the electric, bill, who's responsible, and we need to let Mandy review it once you guys decide it,
Okay.
what,
the whole
the
whole
electric thing.
Okay. well-
agreement, the MOU.
Okay, well, let's get back to official business. You made a motion to go,
I make a motion that we,
okay? Then we'll
The
get a
deed-
second, then we'll do our discussion
okay,
like we're supposed to.
I make a motion that we keep the electric account in the name of the town of Union Bridge, and that the Town Lions Club Ball would get the bill from the town every month, and it would be their responsibility to reimburse the town for
Okay.
it.
All right, do we have a second to that? Brett seconded it? Now we can have our discussion. Any further discussion on that?
I don't.
Does anybody else use the ball field other than them?
They have one ball game a year that I know of, and that's the one where,
Flood zone and.
Flood Zone and Lynn Balls have the big brouhaha on the big ball field. And I think part of them are associated with Town Lions,
Yeah,
so, yeah,
it's a benefit ball game they have.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
They just may come back and say something, because talking to them on the phone, they, said they're putting a lot of money into the fields and everything, and they're not charging us for that, they're doing it, but, Carroll Rec did the same. So,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. Ready for a vote? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Noes? Okay, motion's carried. We'll get back with them, let them know our decision on that.
Okay, this is my busy month, notice this. One more thing. I spoke with the MFB Maryland Food Bank Mobile Market person, Chris DiPiazza, about the mobile market. Basically, it's a vehicle that comes and parks on the site, it'll be up at the community center. The client gets out of their car, walks through the market and shops like they would in a grocery store. They'll have limits on things, they can't just take everything that's there. And then when they're done, they help them get their groceries down out of the truck and into their car. We tentatively scheduled it for the fourth Wednesday of the month at the community center from 4 to 6 p.m. They'll send us flyers to post around the town, to have at the food bank at the town, that St. James, and to put on our website and Facebook to publicize it. They are talking about an agreement that we need to review and sign. Basically what it is that he's saying that it's about giving them permission to use the parking lot at the community center to do this, and rights and responsibilities. And so nothing's going to happen until I get that agreement and get it sent to Mandy to review, to make sure that it's not setting us up for liability or anything like that. No money's gonna change hands, it's not that kind of an agreement. It's just supposed to be to protect both of us. So, but once that happens, then, he's looking to start it the fourth Wednesday of March, if the agreement is acceptable.
I don't have a problem with it. Are these gonna be local people, or everybody in Carroll County that wants to come up for free food every month? I mean, we already have, your church, the church has a food bank on
Okay.
Mondays. They have the truck that comes up there the third Thursday, or the third Wednesday.
Right.
And I look at, how much, do we have those many needy people that need food? Because they leave one town and go to another? I don't care. I don't mind helping people that help themselves.
Yes. The whole purpose, the whole reason why this mobile market is being put in this area is because Bryan's Safe Haven in Tawnytown closed down.
So we're gonna have Tawnytown people coming over
So
here
you're
for
probably
this.
gonna have Tawnytown people. It's being publicized on the Union Bridge website,
So
the
why don't
Union
these
Bridge
people go to
Facebook.
Tawnytown and set up too?
I don't know. I
That'd be
didn't
my
ask him
question.
that.
If it's because Brian's Safe Haven over there closed, and it was a need for there, they need to be in Tawnytown also.
Because people from Union Bridge did go to Bryan's Safe Haven.
Sure.
You know, so, and because we're considered lower economically than the people in Tawnytown.
But okay. I just said it could be, when rescue mission was doing it, they said they were doing it here because people didn't have transportation. Now you're telling me people from Union Bridge was going to Tawnytown. Just my concern.
People from Union Bridge went to Tawnytown when Tawnytown had it on
That's
the
right.
second
Okay.
Wednesday,
Whatever you guys decide, I don't care.
so.
I don't think it'll ever be perfect.
It's never gonna be perfect.
But I'm
No.
okay. I think we should do it. I think we should support this.
Well, it's
myself.
basically, nothing's gonna happen until I get that agreement and Mandy looks at that agreement and says,
We are
it's
held
okay or not.
harmless.
Yes,
And,
that's what we wanna make sure of.
yeah, but yeah, other than that, I think we should do it.
No.
Don't want anybody going hungry if. we
And
can help.
especially like this month, okay? We had one food pantry at St. James because of snow
Yeah.
and holiday and school closed for snow. We can't open if the schools are closed for snow during the school year. We can't open if it's a school holiday. We can't open if it's a school professional day. So they had one week of food this month.
Okay.
So when things like that happen, it's not that happens every month. We had 2 days in January had food pantry.
Okay.
And I think that's it. I think that was enough.
Okay. Brett?
I don't have anything further.
Laura?
I spoke with the man from the Geo Trail about placing the Geo cache at Town Hall. I spoke to Joe Israelson about different points of interest in the town of Union Bridge for the Carroll County Downtown Story Map for the 250th birthday of America. Dawn received an electric bill for the Christmas lights that was extremely high, so I called First Energy, and she placed a hold on the call. I guess they estimated it and grossly estimated it. I had taken a picture of the meter right before the bill came in, and I think we had used, was it like 55 or 62? It was something really low, and then
$600.
yeah, the the estimate was,
I was like, we're not putting those Christmas lights up next year.
so, I guess you got an adjusted bill since then, Dawn?
Yes, we
Okay,
did,
and it was
was-
within range, okay. Because when I called,
It's under $10.
Phone call. pump station that's going in behind you.
I had been working on the story map for Carroll County downtowns, and I had submitted the information, and then they are working on some different things. They did a draft, and I can show anybody who's interested in looking at it. And then the final deadline will be this week. I visited the fourth graders for the at Elmerwood for the If I Were Mayor essay contest, and I reached back out to them, the teachers today, to see if they needed any help. And that's about it.
Okay. Logan,
I just had 2 lights out that I reported, so easy month.
we've been lucky.
Yeah.
All right, public comments and concerns. Anybody in public have?
Mayor and council, I'd like to thank you for giving us this time. I'm Dwight Dotter. I'm a member of the Union Bridge Church of the Brethren. We have a couple of our members are here.
Yes.
I'd like to tell you give you a little bit of update on what we're doing with our garden at the
Sure.
church. As you know, the last 2 years, the community, we've had a committee here from the community. It's been made up of some community members and church members, and we've had a very successful garden.
Yes.
We decided last fall, we decided we'd like to expand. So we own that, it's about 4.5 acres there going over the solar panels. So and it's in hay right now. So we decided it would be nice to maybe develop it over a period of several years into an urban farm. So it'll be kind of in 3 parts. And I have a bit of a layout here. It's a little hard to see, but it kind of gives you a little bit of an idea of what we want to do. So starting at the road where we are right now, that will become a prayer garden, is what we'll be converting that to. We ran into a few problems last year. I think it was great the first year, but last year, because we tried to keep the wooded paths there, the wood chip paths, we had such an awful problem with the Canadian thistle. People wanted to come and pull weeds, and they didn't want to do it because of along with the heat. So that will become prayer garden. Then down in the corner where we have the clothing bins right now, we will be putting in a rain garden. You know, the church doesn't really have stormwater runoff there. I think, I looked at it one day, I think we get an awful lot of runoff, really even from Route
Off the
75,
parking lot, yeah.
you know, it goes down through there. I wasn't aware that there was a wet spot down there. They found it last year when they were doing some work with the skid loader and got in and found there was a wet spot there. So we can put a rain garden there, and I think a rain garden will be a real benefit to us. Then on the lower side, below the church, kind of can see it a little bit here. This will be the strip that runs down through here. The church is right here. So this is a strip running right down through here. That's where we will have about 1.5 acres or so. Eventually, it'll expand, but about 1.5 acres the first year of garden space. But what we're going to do is, this will actually move. We want to put, a lot of it will be done with the tractor. It'll be done with farm tractor.
Sure.
We just can't do all the work by hand. Ultimately, we want to produce, I can answer your question. I think there is a great need for food. There are a lot of people in need, and we've worked a lot. I've worked a lot with the Maryland Food Bank before, and I know there is a great need, and I'm sure we'll be able to find a place to put this food. So we're going to put this, we call this the community garden. So that'll be actually moved in the middle here. The Early Learning Center sort of requested that we move that here. A lot of the children go out and work. They educate them some in that part. They like to work with potatoes, for example. So what we want to do is make sure we have that part in line with the playground area, if you're familiar with that. A lot of the people who came to work in the garden last year didn't really want their children to go down to play in the playground when they were up along the road. They're out of sight. So now we'll be putting that right in line with that. And then the rest of it will be corn, potatoes, green beans, anything that we can run through with the tractor and cultivator is what we'll put down here. Over about the next couple of years, ultimately, we'd like to have high tunnels, at least one high tunnel over here closer to the power station. And when we go to a high tunnel, we'd like to do that so it'll extend the growing season. Of course, once we go to the high tunnel, then we'll need a lot of water for irrigation. So we want to drill a well, an irrigation well over here. And we've been working with Vogel's well drilling on that. We have already applied for a grant through the Healthy Soils Grant, the Maryland Department of Agriculture. It's a 3-year grant where what we want to do is we want to hire an intern from the University of Maryland's Institute of Applied Agriculture. They need to do internships, so we'd like to do that for 3 years. We also put in for enough money. We'd like to plant trees. It'll be fruit and nut trees. and ultimately be some berries and different things in here. It'll be a variety is what we'll end up with. So that's kind of a quick overview of what we want to do. What we want to do is, we'd like your support.
Sure.
We'd like your support, not asking for any money. We are getting ready, I am putting in a grant, hopefully by next week, for the well, to pay for the well through the Urban Power and Infrastructure Act, I believe it's called. We are putting in for that. 2 other grant opportunities we're looking at. I think we can cover things pretty well on that. But big thing we want is we just want support from the town.
I think your gardens up here have done very well over the last couple of years. Like I say, I saw a lot of people going through this, so.
The gardens have done real well. We had the produce wagon the first
Sure,
year. Last year, we had the produce stand. They run a lot of it through the social media when they bring, a lot of people bring produce in. It's not all
Yes.
raised right there.
Sure, yes.
A lot of people have brought a lot of stuff in. They've done a real good job of that. When they have excess, they put it out on social media. It gets away. I think they did send a lot of it out with the Uniontown Bible Church. I think picked a lot of it up and helped deliver it out. The committee will be the intern that we get won't just be out pulling weeds in the garden. We're going to have them work on a business plan for the garden. They need a plan for sustainability to keep it going in the future. We can't depend on 1 or 2 people. Once we invest a lot of money in this, we want this to go on for a long time. We hope it will. The other thing is the committee expressed a lot of concern last fall about distribution. What are we going to do? If we can raise it, if we raise a lot of food here, and we think we can, a lot of produce, what can we do with it? And so that's been a big concern. Nobody wants to see anything go to
Sure.
waste. So the intern will work on that, on the distribution network. They will also coordinate all the volunteers. So the whole way around, we'll have a lot of, I think we can give a real nice internship to an ag student that we're for 3 years. And pretty sure that that's all going to come through for us.
So do you want a letter of support or just verbal or?
Well, what I'd like is just, and I actually put together a little bit of a draft to help you out. Putting in for the grant for the water for the well, they would like something from the town saying that you support us on that. And we want to do that because the church can't really afford to pay to buy water for irrigation. And so we would like to go ahead and put in for that. So we would like a letter of support from the town for that.
And that's an agriculture well they call, I think, right? Something like that.
It's not going to be potable water, but I mean,
Sure, yeah.
but I don't know if they distinguish the difference in them or not. But I think Fogels have actually, to be honest, we already have the permit from the county. It's just we haven't signed anything with Fogels yet. We're waiting until we put in for the grant. The grant we're putting in for is a non-competitive grant. So as long as we meet all the requirements for it, we should be able to get it, as long as they have money, and right now they do. Yes, we want to get it in. And we've even had some contacted the Soil Conservation District in Westminster, and they said they will work a little bit with them. If there's some things that grant won't pay for, like ironically, we'd like to have a couple solar panels there to provide electricity for the well. They said they could work with an NRCS equip grant on that, and they said maybe the Board of Supervisors down at the SCD office might even be able to help us out a little bit if we had some things that wanted to be paid for. So I think the whole way around, we have a lot of support.
Sure, I don't see why we can't.
Council's wishes to make a motion, that way we got it. And
I move that we write a letter in support of the ag well that the church wants to drill on their property.
I second that.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Those? Get your letter.
Thank you very much,
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Dwight.
The very interesting thing is, having read the If I Were Mayor essay contest for years, one of the most common
Oh, yeah.
requests was to put in a community garden in their town. And to see something like that happen in our town is pretty cool.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. All right. Anyone else for community, comments and concerns? Okay, our next work session is March the 9th. Our next council meeting will be March the 23rd. So, hearing nothing else, we're in line for adjournment.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Questions? All those in favor, ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Those? Thank you very much. We'll see you next month.